I have just recorded a podcast episode that's going to be released in some weeks from now. And we touched on different things, but the topic of skin tone came up and it activated a lot of internalized racism that I feel like I was on some level aware that I have, but another level unaware too. And even as I sit here out in my back garden, wanting to be on the grass, being lovingly held by Mother Earth in this moment, I still feel a huge resistance about exposing this truth. I'm someone who talks so passionately about and against racism. And I'm usually the person in the room who will say, that's racist. I'm not going to stand for it. Let's do something about it. So it also makes me feel almost like a fraud to have my own internalized racism. But it's there. And how could it not be internalized when there's so much constant messaging in the media, secretly and overtly, presently and historically? It's going to seep in some way, especially being someone who wasn't taught from an early age how to process and deflect and release what isn't mine to hold and carry. So I know I'm going to be releasing the podcast episode in the future, but I just have to talk about this. Like, there's some ancestors that want me to talk about it, and I feel like there's some that are like trying to remain blind to this truth, but I'm here and I want to address it now. The conversation I was having on the podcast was in relation to my experience of like pregnancy and giving birth and having a child who looks a lot lighter than me and feeling relief at that. And first, when I named that sentence out loud, it was something I knew I felt, but I kind of brushed it off with the sentence of, well, yeah, I want her to be lighter so she can have like a easier life, so that she won't face as much discrimination because she's lighter. Almost like that reason is, I'm hearing the word justified, or that reason is like sweet and neatly wrapped, but there's still layers underneath it. There's still layers of internalized like hatred and almost like a dislike or disgust of my own skin tone. And even though I'm saying that, I'm not resonating with those words, because I know I love my skin, and I think, and I look at dark-skinned women as well as me being a dark-skinned woman, and I think, wow, you are so beautiful. But there's still a part of me that feels, no, society doesn't want you to see that as beautiful. There's still a part of me that's detached from the reality that I have this belief inside of me that lighter is prettier. I'm getting like a flashback from when I was in primary, and one of my friends who was also dark skinned turns and said to me, oh, light skinned people are so much prettier. They're so much prettier. And I was like, yeah. And that was when we were like 10 years old. And like, I'm logically and rationally saying this stuff with like a level of like detachment, but if I meditate on it and I allow these words to sit in my body, like, I'm now getting a visual of someone trying to like scrub her skin or pull her skin off. And I don't think that visual is me. It might be an ancestor, or it might be like something I've seen in the media. Like, I have this book that is about skin tone and colorism, and it's a children's book that I'm reading to my daughter. And in the book, Oh, it's called Sui. I think it's pronounced Sui, Sulwe. It's written by I can't remember her name. She's a really big actress. Okay, I can't remember her name right now. She was in Black Panther. I'll find out the name. But in the book, there's a page where she's scrubbing her skin, trying to make herself lighter, to be light as her sister, because her sister is lighter. And I'm getting that visual because that's the reality that sits in so many black women, dark-skinned black women. And my daughter is beautiful, and I feel like even if for my next child, I really want a dark-skinned daughter. For my, like, if I have a daughter again, I want her to be dark-skinned. I want her to be any skin tone, but I want her to be dark-skinned because dark skin is beautiful. But I also want to see how I can work with both of them, my current daughter and my future daughter, who I'm manifesting, to embrace various skin tones, and to really look at what triggers are being activated within me mentally by having various skin tone daughters, because it will be a confronting, like, in my face reality that there might be some unconscious favoriting of my darker skin tone child sometimes, because I'm like, yeah, you look like me, we have to be on the same side. Or there might be some favoring of my lighter skin child because you fit the wider society's norm of what pretty is, so I prefer you. Or it will activate some shadow parts that I need to look at and work with, and I would love to do that kind of work in union with them and others, so we can really get to this ancestral wound, because it just sits in so many black people. I'm remembering now for my baby shower. So my partner's Nigerian, so obviously a lot of his friends are Nigerian. For my baby shower, we had that card, the baby prediction card, and it said, I predict your baby will look like this, will be this height, da 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 da. And so many of his friends wrote, I predict and I would like your baby to be the father's skin color, and my partner is light skinned. So reading that repeatedly from most of his friends, saying it'll be better, basically, if your child looks lighter than you, that is a harsh thing to read. And I know I saw that and I was angry. And I know when it was written, it wasn't written with like malicious intent. It's just internalized racism and internalized colorism. But it impacted me, and I know it did, and I know it fed that story or that wound that lighter is better. And I know this messaging comes from way back in slavery times, where it was just another means to disempower my people. But it's a really like rude reawakening and harsh reality that belief system still sits deeply within me. And I want to confront it, and I want to name it out loud, and I want to talk about it, because I don't want to pretend it's not there. All the shadow stuff inside me, I don't want to pretend that it's not there. I want to like look at it, expose it. But with every shadow emotion, I always want to look at it with compassion. But it's really hard to look at that belief system with compassion, because it was born out of hatred. It was born out of an attempt to overpower and make my people not love themselves, and to make them lose themselves. And that's why I need to like acknowledge that it sits within me, but kind of like do a cord cutting so that I'm not so attached to this belief. I know I've talked about cord cutting and detaching and releasing and shedding beliefs before, because cord cutting is not about just cutting cords with people you're in relationship with, but in cord cutting is about like belief systems and ideas that you have, like cutting the cords with those. So I think there's still some deep work that I need to do, and I would love to do that in union with my ancestors, like visualizing them with me as we cut away this belief that is so ingrained, because it sits there and it's hard. It feels like it's in the basement, like all the way digging down of all the shadow emotions and thoughts and beliefs. It's one of the ones that's really at the bottom and is like trying to hide and doesn't want to be seen, but it's there. So I really need to do like a ceremony with my ancestors to clear and cleanse it, but also not to forget it, because that is a part of our story, unfortunately, and that is a part of the way they took our power away. Just like the way that they took my ancestors' names away, the way that they separated my ancestors from their children and their family. This lie that beautiful melanin is not beautiful was a core evil, I want to say. So yeah, I just needed to talk about it and do like a video about it to expose this lie that still sits inside of me. And I have my hand over my chest. By the way, it looks like my boobs are out. They're not out. My dress is just low. But I have my hand over my heart when I'm saying this, because it's feeling like there's lots of icky, dark, black gook over this story, this unhealthy story about darkness. And I would love in the future to show this video to my daughter so we can discuss this, because I think this is where growth happens, when we have these raw conversations. So thank you for taking time to just watch this and engage in this video with me. If there's anything that I said that resonated or you're interested in, please contact me, reach out. I'm interested in us having deep conversations about this stuff. I need to go and do a meditation to just wrap some healing love around my heart. And it's interesting, whilst doing this video, I can see this furry, icky looking caterpillar in front of me on the grass. And I'm looking at it and it looks icky. And I think that's a huge sign from the universe of, you need to look at the ugly stuff that we have inside of us sometimes. You need to confront it. So there, I did it. And I'm going to post this on all my platforms, because this is a scary wound that needs to be exposed.